Welcome everyone to another episode of Top 5 of the Week. I am Cynthia and excited to bring you my top 5 recommendations for this week. So let's go. As we commemorate 16 days of activism against gender-based violence with a focus on violence against women and girls, my first recommendation is this data-driven report from the United Nations Office on Drug and Crime and UN Women that reveals that the fight to end violence against women and girls is far from over. It puts forward that most killings of women and girls are gender motivated, and at least 1 in 3 women have been subjected to physical and or sexual intimate partner violence or non-partner sexual violence in their lifetime. In addition, 45,000 women and girls were killed by intimate partners or family members in 2021, which translates to 5 women or girls being killed by a family member on the hour. The report argues that women's rights organizations play an important role in preventing gender-based violence against women and girls by advocating for and securing normative and policy change, providing psychosocial support services, and holding governments to account. My second recommendation focuses on green, resilient, and inclusive development, or otherwise referred to as the GRID approach, that takes into account the interlinkage between people, the planet, and the economy, and promotes economic growth that goes hand in hand with environmental goals and inclusion. In other words, it approaches poverty eradication and shared prosperity from a sustainability lens. The report outlines 3 dimensions of the GRID approach, the first being the green dimension, which focuses on transitions in energy, agriculture, food, water, land, transport, cities, and manufacturing systems. The resilient dimension looks at investments in risk management to prevent and prepare for climate change, pandemics, natural hazards, socioeconomic and financial shocks. The inclusive dimensions support solutions that do not leave anyone behind and reduces disparities in opportunities and outcomes. Number 3 is a paper by Michelle Chivunga and Alistair Tempest, published by the South African Institute of International Affairs, titled Digital Disruption in Africa, Mapping Innovations for the AfCFTA in Post-COVID Times. The authors look at the development of the 4th Industrial Revolution in Africa against the backdrop of the African Continental Free Trade Area and the post-COVID-19 world. They question how innovations in technology such as blockchain, artificial intelligence, virtual reality, augmented reality, robots, drones, machine learning, and cloud computing can be integrated into and become relevant to the African context. The paper states that taking advantage of the data revolution, building data capital, and using emerging technologies with caution can be hugely beneficial to tackle barriers to cross-border trade, open market access, and strengthen regulatory frameworks. My 4th recommendation is an advocacy brief on protecting children's rights to education in a crisis situation. It showcases how in a time of crisis, education is one of the most compromised areas. Prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, 258 million children around the world were already failing to access basic education, and with school closures related to COVID-19 restrictions, an additional 11 million children are at risk of not returning to school. In addition, children will bear the brunt of the impact of climate change. It puts forward recommendations to protect children's rights in emergencies and crises, including 1. Building resilient education systems, 2. Increasing gender equality and reducing marginalization, and 3. Upholding accountability and financing. Finally, at number 5, and from the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, is a regional analysis of the nationally determined contributions in sub-Saharan Africa, with a focus on the gaps and opportunities in the agriculture and land use sectors. This report analyzes substantial contributions already put forward by countries, opportunities for further action, and the gaps, barriers, and needs that will need to be addressed if the agriculture and land use sectors in sub-Saharan Africa are to raise mitigation and adaptation ambitions. Some of the key insights from the report are that, number one, in a number of African sub-regions, particularly Southern Africa, the frequency and intensity of drought, aridity, and fire weather are expected to increase and severely affect crucial sectors such as agriculture, forestry, health, and ecosystem. Number two, with overall net emissions expected to increase by 10% by 2030 across all sectors compared to 2015 levels, despite NDC implementation, it is vital that sub-Saharan African countries create transformational shifts in their adaptation and mitigation actions to stave off the worst impacts of climate change. Number three, moving forward, reducing emissions from livestock, agricultural soils, forest loss and degradation, and biomass burning will be critical to lowering the GHG footprint of the region and the sector. I hope you have found this useful, and don't forget to get in touch if you're looking for publications on specific topics or have a publication you would like us to consider for this segment. Have a wonderful, wonderful week and stay safe.